Hello, and welcome to bonus episode 26 of the Book Wars Pod. I am Chris, here with Miranda, with a very low energy, lightly staffed episode of the Book Wars Pod, as we don't have Kristen or Kate today. How are you, Miranda?
I'm okay. I like singing the theme song. I should do that every week.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm sure Kristen will put it in and it'll sound great, but I thought we did a pretty good rendition there.
I know, it's great because, like, for us, we're not hearing the theme song, obviously, because Kristen is not here and she has all the sound effects on her phone. But our listeners are going to hear the completely normal theme song followed by us.
Who says
Unless
no?
Kristen just cuts it out.
Who's to say? We're just going to see what happens.
The listeners will know as soon as we do, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point.
But today we are discussing Vader Immortal Episode 2, which came out, I want to say in like October, somewhere thereabouts, maybe September, for the Oculus Quest and Oculus Rift. It is, as you can probably tell by the Episode 2 in the title, the second episode of the Vader Immortal VR experience. They don't call it a game. It's very annoying.
I kind of, it is douchey, but I do agree with it.
Yeah, that's fair. Listen, sometimes things are just factually douchey. There's not.
Yeah, I mean,
about it.
I'm okay with, agreeing with that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Also, I will warn our listeners now. I will not speak for Miranda. I am in rough shape right now because I slept not at all last night. So I will probably go off on more tangents than usual.
That's great. I slept a lot this morning and not well. So it's just going to be an adventure for all of us, I think. I think it'll be
great.
fun.
We're all doing fantastic.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Kate is going to listen to this and really regret that she did not play Vader Immortal so that she could be on this podcast to wrangle us.
Oh, probably. But, we played it and we're here to talk about it.
We have, allegedly.
So, this is the one. So, the first one, we're just randomly at this place on Mustafar and, doing lightsaber things. And then this one is the one where we're yeeting rocks and droids around because we get to use the Force.
Indeed,
yeah.
That is correct.
There's
but
also
before we talk about yeeting, what are you drinking?
I have half a sip left of this ginger sparkling water.
Nice. Yeah, I am drinking black tea, and
Ooh.
I have a 2/3 eaten sleeve of Thin Mints in front of me.
Good.
Between the caffeine and the sugar. I'm
yeah,
really hoping,
just keep you right awake.
Get a boost about halfway through this episode. Great.
The question, though, how many Thin Mints will you eat?
Oh, I mean, easily the rest of this sleeve, if not a second one.
Great.
Let's
that.
not kid ourselves.
Oh, no. That's
the only thing
realistic.
that is going to stop me is not wanting to chew into the microphone.
Yeah, I was visiting a friend last weekend, and they were at work, and I was just kind of having a quiet day and ate an entire sleeve of Girl Scout cookies and was like, sorry, these are yours.
Well, I mean, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
We were a bunch of our friends did a cabin weekend last weekend, and we did the shopping for it that Friday afternoon, and it was a few of us went. We just had a giant ass basket of snacks and food and stuff.
Yeah.
And the woman at the checkout was like, "Are you doing your grocery shopping for the month?" And I was like, "You know what?
That's a little rude.
I don't need this right now. Just because we have 12 bags of chips Doesn't
And
mean
they're-
I need your judgment.
They're all for me.
Indeed. All right, so back to the eating.
Yeah.
Just to give folks, it has been a while since we did our first Vader Immortal episode. So just to give folks a refresher on the story, you play a smuggler along with Maya Rudolph droid, who gets pulled out of hyperspace, taken to Mustafar, and imprisoned by Darth Vader. He is trying to get you to unlock the secrets of the ancient temple beneath his own castle. And you fight stuff, you have a lightsaber, you learn to use it, and then at the end of it, Vader catches up with you, realizes you're Force sensitive, and that you are the descendant of Lady Corvax, who is apparently the ancient queen of Mustafar, and that you are the secret to unlocking something called the Eon Engine, which he is using to try and bring Padme back to life. This episode picks up exactly where the first episode left off, so it is basically a just a seamless experience, and this one's about 45-ish minutes long. And yeah, that's kind of where we are. And so in this one, I don't know, Burb, what were your reactions to the story?
I mean, it was kind of what I expected. You know, he's trying to make this very poor choice because at his core, Vader will always be Anakin Skywalker.
Extra as fuck, as we know.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. We have a point on here a little later about like Darth Vader teaching us the Force, which is a little weird. But I mean, I liked it.
Yeah, that was something I like. And this is an issue I always have with video games because like I recognize the need for like tutorial levels. Like obviously they're necessary, like, and I think some of the best games just like kind of embrace it and just be like, we know that your like super powered hero should not need a refresher on what button to press to shoot a gun, but here we are.
Yeah.
But it just felt very like I couldn't quite suspend disbelief that like Darth Vader of all people was like nurturing. And now if you use the Force and unlock the door, I'm like, okay, Anakin.
Yeah.
Anakin, you were never this patient even when you were Anakin.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, like you said, some games will just be like, this is a tutorial. Or like they kind of find a way to like casually work it in and like they show you as you go through. But this one, they're like forcing the tutorial level into the story. But the way that they do that by like having Darth Vader be your teacher is a little weird. Because Darth Vader is notably one of the least patient characters kind of ever.
Yeah, in the history of fiction.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Like, you really have to suspend your disbelief for that, which is, I mean, I think I like was able to do it a bit. Probably not, you know, I probably didn't struggle with it as much as you did, because I wasn't actively thinking about it. But you know, it's gonna be like that sometimes. So I was like, all right, this is just happening now.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, it's not like the Vader just randomly has a training droid and spare lightsaber in his castle.
Just
story
in case.
from episode 1 was significantly more well woven in, but yeah, it was weird. But yeah, anyway, another aspect of the story in this one is we get to know the Black Bishop more, who we see in one scene in episode 1, kind of instructing Vader on how to bring Padme back using the Eon Engine, which is just, I swear to God, the names for like the lore, all the lore stuff in this is just so generic.
Oh
The
yeah,
Bright Star, the Eon Engine.
the Black Bishop.
The Black Bishop. It's
No creativity was
It's very weird.
put into. They spent that budget elsewhere.
Yeah, not a lot of brain muscles were strained in this episode in particular. But we find out that he is actually the husband of Lady Corvax, who died in a battle with some invaders, unclear who, but invaders in ancient Mustafar. The implication was it might have been the Sith, but again, not clarified, and at the end of the day, not important. And yes, Miranda, this is the one where he's the night guy.
Okay. I'm like trying to remember the actual story because it's been 3 months since I
we should
it.
warn our listeners. Miranda played this when she came at Thanksgiving, and we are now on February 23rd recording the bonus.
It's like I remember the gameplay.
Yeah.
And how I felt playing it, but like some of the finer details of the story are escaping me, so I'm going to have questions probably.
Yeah. So what he tells you is basically, so Vader is taking you through the temple. You get separated from Vader, and then the Black Bishop comes to you, tells you who he is, and that he is in some sort of weird Force purgatory. Or the Force is not mentioned, but some sort of weird purgatory, because he died in battle and his wife tried to use the Eon engine to bring him back to life, and it left him in this purgatory. And so he needs you to recover the Bright Star, and instead of giving it to Vader, use it to like restore Mustafar to its former, forest planet glory instead of literal hell.
Yeah, just lava everywhere. So I do have a question. So if Vader were to be like successful and use the Eon engine to bring Padme back to life, would she also be like in that kind of purgatory place?
That's what I wanted to know, because like that certainly feels like the implication, right? Like, because like that is, unless there's some like weird lore about like Lady Corvax put the Bright Star in upside down, like it's weird to think that it would work now when not working before, when like the person who actually understood what was happening was using it. But then like Vader is trying to make that happen. So what, like, it's not really clear if his end game is like, I will like sit here and worship Ghost Padme,
which he will, no matter what.
Which he will. It's not going to make the joke I was thinking of.
Right.
And or like, does he think that it'll work? Because we do, like, he does in episode 1, we see him kind of like hearing / remembering her voice from beyond the grave, probably hearing her voice from beyond the grave, or like his memories or something. But it's unclear what his end game is, because it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, I think it could make sense if you just consider how extra he is as a person.
That's true.
But at the same time, like, he's talking to the Black Bishop, who clearly was not successfully brought all the way back to life. Though who does seem to be kind of immortal, because he's not alive or dead, really. But like, why does he think it's gonna work this time? Like, to your point, clearly it didn't work before, and Darth Vader's a fucking idiot.
Big if true. Yeah, it's just, he is very, and I mean, I guess the reason it makes sense is because it doesn't make sense, and Anakin Skywalker has never thought an idea through in his life.
That is correct.
That is like that is how you suspend disbelief for it. But yeah, it's very confusing how this is supposed to work, because, and also like the Black Bishop is like, we see the Black Bishop helping him in episode 1 and like instructing him on like, if you can get the Bright Star, then you can turn on the Eon engine. But then like in this one, the Black Bishop is like, you need to stop Vader. He's going to destroy the planet and rule the galaxy with the power of of the Eon engine. And it's like, why don't you not help him?
Yeah.
Presumably that would slow him in some way.
And like, you mentioned earlier that there's You know, the story in the first episode goes just straight into the second. Like, it picks up where it left off. Like, there's no time there really for him to have a change of heart about anything. Like, it's just, oh no, Vader's bad now. Which is not wrong, but also in direct opposition to your actions.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird story. And I think we said in episode 1 that the story felt like kind of basic. And it feels even more basic in this episode, to me at least.
Yeah.
It just felt very, like, it just didn't feel like there was a story. Like, it's like, Vader trains you, Vader betrays you.
You fight some things.
You like, are set up to do more things in the finale. It was very, like, the entire thing, like, was a setup episode.
Oh, yeah.
Which, like, made sense in episode 1, less so in episode 2 of a 3-episode series.
I mean, I think in Star Wars, like, sometimes we do see that. Or we've seen it in, like, the books, where, like, the middle part of a trilogy is just like, okay, you know, stuff is happening, and it's still good, but, like, clearly we're building to something.
Yeah, this whole episode was very, like, soggy middle of the narrative.
Yeah. I mean, I still liked it. It was fun, you know?
Yeah. I didn't. Well, so let's get into it and our reaction to actually playing it instead of the story.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about, like, your experience playing it and how you felt.
And so this is kind of why at the beginning oh god, I talked about, like, fully believing that this is more of an experience than a game, because, like, it is, you know, it's virtual reality, it's an experience, you're in there, you're doing the things, like looking around and doing weird Force shit, and, like, that's just cool, you know? Like, we all want to, you know, be able to use the Force and feel like we're doing Jedi things, or, you know, all the cool stuff that we get to see used in Star Wars, you know, whenever we watch a movie or a show. And, like, there's something to me that's definitely fun about that. And there were some things that weren't perfect about kind of the mechanisms of doing that, and I know we've cut a lot of notes on that in the outline. But, like, at the end of the day, you know, the story kind of basic, and it really just kind of pushes you through to the end of the episode, right? It's just like, okay, you do this, now do this, now do this, now fight these droids and all of that. But, you know, there are a lot worse ways to spend 45 minutes.
Yeah, and that is, like, that's fair. And I think I was very down on this episode. So also, like, full disclosure, I have played episode 3, which came out in November. Miranda has not. I am not going to talk about it in this episode. We'll do another bonus at some point in the future once Kate has played it, and then either Miranda or Kristen will have to come visit, or we'll find somebody who has. To me, after, like, I loved the controls in episode 1. Like, the lightsaber controls felt really intuitive and really like accurate.
Very realistic.
Yeah, it felt like if I was getting hit by a lightsaber, it's because I didn't parry it enough, or hit by, you know, whatever weapon. It's because I didn't parry it well enough. To me, this one, the Force controls felt very clunky. And I guess one could argue that, like, it's supposed to, because you're just learning the Force. But, like, it didn't really feel like that was it. It just felt like they weren't refined. Like, it's just a lot of, like, you know, there's parts where you're throwing rocks, and, like, but it kind of only works if you make the movement very slowly. And one thing that, like, you know, like, being the extra motherfucker that I am, I was, like, in my living room making, like, big hand motions, like, fucking, like, Avatar, like, firebending style, like, pushing things with my hands in the air, and like, nothing would happen. Like, I would drop the rock I was holding without it flying forward at all.
Yeah.
And So that felt less good to me, and that kind of took me out of it and took me out of the immersive quality, because there was just a lot of like, I'm throwing this rock at you. I'm throwing this rock at you part 2 because I didn't work part 1. So I feel like, and since that was the main gimmick in this episode, you don't really get a lightsaber until the very final bit in this episode. And so that kind of took me out of it. Also, one thing that annoyed me is that you just couldn't interact with anything.
Oh yeah.
In this one.
Yeah, I think it was very much kind of like I just said, like you're just kind of being shuttled through the story. It's like, no, you can't explore. You need to throw these rocks. Good luck.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that we both talked about liking in episode 1 was like the intro scene where you're on the ship and you're flipping the switches and pulling the lever to go into hyperspace, and you're in the back doing diagnostics on the ship, and like there's puzzles in Vader's castle to unlock doors, and it felt much more immersive. Whereas this one, it really just felt like you were kind of being walked through a Disneyland ride.
Yeah.
But I mean, that said, I'm grumpy. So
big if true.
I know, right?
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on some of the controls for, using the Force and moving stuff. It's like, it just felt like it wasn't accurate. Like, I would go to try to lift a rock and have to try a couple of times to get the rock up into the air. And so I feel like, when you get to that part, if you're having those issues, like, you're less focused on the story and more just like, why can't I get this fucking rock into the air?
Yeah, there was just a lot more frustration in the controls than there was in episode 1, I felt. But I mean, that said, it is episode 2 of a 3-episode series. We will see if it comes together in episode 3. And also in future VR games, because I do think, obviously there's a lot of potential there, because you want to be able to use the Force and throw things. And like, we've all seen Star Wars, or if you haven't, you found a weird podcast to listen to.
Why are you here? It's like,
if you haven't and you're listening to my podcast, you're probably my mom.
It's like, I'm not angry, I'm just confused.
Yeah, exactly. But so like, there's obviously potential to be the person grabbing things and pushing things and like fucking people up with the Force.
Oh yeah.
It just didn't feel like it was there yet for me in this one.
And I wonder if part of that too is just kind of the growing pains of, getting into VR as, a medium for telling news stories in Star Wars.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with.
I mean, and again, it's kind of weird though, because the first episode in this was like fun. You had the really intuitive lightsaber controls. It felt more immersive, and like, why is this coming up now? But I think I would imagine that as Star Wars kind of does more work in the VR realm, I would at least hope that things are going to be a little more consistent.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like if from a like control and experience standpoint, ignoring the story, like if this episode had come before episode 1, we would be having a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
Because like this one, it would have been like proof of concept, like, ooh, you get to like do levers and do puzzles and like maybe throw a rock to distract people, sneak, like almost like kind of like Rey in Force Awakens when she like is like getting out of Kylo's castle at Starkiller. Like if that had been the start and then you get the lightsaber, I feel like that would have been a totally different experience. And it like this one almost suffers from how crisp the controls felt in episode 1.
Yes. That is a good point.
So let's talk about episode 3.
Okay.
And I, as I said, have already played it. I will not give anything away and kind of talk about how I felt after playing episode 2. But Miranda, what do you want to see from it?
Obviously I'd like to kind of see better controls. I would really love for them to go back to kind of the, easier, God, I want it to feel more like episode 1 than episode 2. That's the point I am trying to get myself to. Because again, like, it was cool. But I think too, like, even with that, obviously refining some of the force controls, but then just like combining everything a little more. So like, being able to throw things and then like, oh, somebody's firing at me, I need to use my lightsaber, and just kind of, I guess I'm looking for like a more immersive experience than I think episode 2 was.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I want it to put everything together, basically. Like we were talking about, like, episode 1 was very much learning how to do a lightsaber, and episode 2 was very much learning how to do the Force. And now I want to walk and chew gum at the same time in episode 3.
Yes.
And, like, again, I get it. I get why they split it up like this, because, like, especially me included, many people have never done VR before. And, like, not everybody has played as many video games as I have. And so, like, it's going to be very confusing for some people. So I get it, but I want to actually feel like I'm not on the rails anymore.
Yeah. And I, totally understand, like, this is a new medium for most people. And it's hard, you have to learn how to work everything. And I do appreciate that because of that, they did take it a little slow with doing that. But now I'm at the point where I'm just like impatient. Like, I've learned to walk. Now I want to run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I'd love to figure out what the hell is going to happen with this story. Because, like, as we discussed earlier, I have many questions.
Yeah, I want more characterization of not the Black Bishop.
Yeah.
Like, I want, like, one of the, like, best parts of the story in episode 1 for me was, like, the moment when, like, Vader, like, takes off his helmet and is, like, basically, like, I will still save you, Padme. Like, has this, like, very emotional, tortured moment. And in this one, it's just very much Vader yelling at you the entire time.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see more actual story from it, which, like, I think we will. They're certainly setting it up.
Yeah.
For that to happen, with, like, it ending with you, like, about to take control of the droid army and, like, all that jazz.
I do wonder too if we're gonna learn anything about, like, the character that we play.
Yeah.
Because, like, we don't know much. It's like we're a smuggler. I think you mentioned we're descended from Lady Corvax. And that's kind of it. We can use the Force. We've got a droid friend. It's not super fleshed out other than that.
Yeah, and it's... I wonder that too, and, like, I get why they left your player so vague, because, like, obviously you want the player to be able to fit into that role, and so you don't want to, like, clarify what they look like or gender or really anything.
Yeah.
But it is very, like, how did you find me? How did I not know I was descended from this, like, ancient Mustafarian queen?
Yeah, like and I think there are ways to, build this character that don't involve any of those, like, physical characteristics. It's like, just give me a little bit of background. Just like, what planet am I from? What am I doing here?
Yeah. Also, I don't think we will, but one thing I want to see is just, like, please God, somebody write Maya Rudolph better dialogue, because it's bad.
Yeah.
And it's just so painful because like because I'm a human being, I love Maya Rudolph.
Yes.
And she's so talented, and she is just so phoning it in. It is embarrassing.
Yeah, it's like, this is a really good opportunity. You have Maya Rudolph voicing a droid in an immersive experience. Like, you could use the resources you have better.
Yeah, like, there's no reason she shouldn't be funnier, or at least more engaging. Like, she oozes charisma, and even if you're not seeing her, we should be getting some of that in her voice, and we're just not.
Yeah, especially, in a universe where, we see so many droids with like so much personality. Specifically, I'm thinking of L3 in Solo, but like, we don't understand what R2-D2 says at any point. And like, that droid is like a very popular character.
I know. That's such a good comparison.
Like,
to both L3 and R2. Like, those are like the two different ends of the spectrum of how to do a droid well. Mm-hmm. And Maya Rudolph is nowhere to be found in that spectrum.
Yeah. She's like on the kind of adjacent parallel one where like, what's the point of this droid being here? Other than there was somebody else on the ship.
Yeah. So that's other thoughts about Vader Immortal. And in particular, like, what does it add to the canon? This episode didn't add much because not a lot happened. Mm-hmm. We do learn more about weird Force shit, kind of. It's not mentioned as weird Force shit, but if you start from the basis of everything in the galaxy is the Force, then presumably the Black Bishop is in some sort of Force purgatory. So that's a thing.
Mm-hmm. It adds that to the canon, and it adds like the idea of the Force purgatory kind of place to the canon, but I just wonder like where that's gonna go from here. Are we gonna see that in the books, in any of the shows that they're doing for Disney Plus? Like, is that just kind of gonna be a, hey, remember in Vader Immortal when there was a Force purgatory and Darth Vader tried to, get his dead wife to be in there? I don't know, like, how much adding this to the canon is going to affect, the overall canon, for lack of a better word. Like,
yeah.
Are we going to see this? Is it going to matter? Or is this just like a weird, niche, cool little thing?
Yeah, the story feels very self-contained so far. And, like, obviously there's reasons for that. It makes sense that the story would be self-contained because, you want it to be a complete story and to be accessible. But yeah, it doesn't really feel like it's going to impact anything yet. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see if it does.
Yeah, and I think it'll also be interesting to see if, like, as Disney and Star Wars venture more into VR, like, will there be future games or, groups of games, like, this is a trilogy, obviously, where it does tie in a little more? Because, like, we know that Darth Vader does not have a wife who is alive. Like,
factually correct. Yes.
Yes. Factually douchey, but
yeah,
correct. And like, you could do something where, yeah, she's alive, but like she dies again, or the Force purgatory thing just doesn't work out. But that has to be kind of tied up into a bow by the time we get to other stories with Darth Vader. Like, it's Like, we kind of know the outcome going into it because we've seen the movies. And so, like, I think this would be a really good medium to explore some things that we explore, you know, like in the books, where it's characters you don't know. Maybe they're kind of on the outskirts of the main stories, but, like, it really allows us to have, or it allows the creators to, like, have a little more liberty with the stories that they're designing. And I recognize that, especially as the first kind of installments in VR, like, yeah, you want to have Darth Vader. Like, this is the guy that everybody knows about Star Wars.
Right.
Like, the entire trilogy of trilogies is about Anakin being a dipshit. That's just kind of how it is. So, like, yeah, maybe we don't start with, like, a character, you know, from, like, one of the Battlefront books or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, marquee guy, let's do it. But I think that would be a good way to take advantage of this, to tell different stories and, you know, expand the Star Wars universe, because that's what we all, you know, love and enjoy about the books, for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, like, it's interesting, and we'll talk more probably after we do our episode 3 bonus episode, just kind of like about what VR opportunities we want. But, like, it does feel like if they were, there are places they could expand this, and they, like, wrote themselves into a box a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
But there's, you know, there's endless ways they could take this elsewhere. Like, you could be, like, you could make Fallen Order, like, to take another Star Wars video game. You could, like, take that and make parts of it VR, and, like, that story would work.
Yeah.
Or, like, you could be playing from Vader's perspective, and that would be really cool. Or, like, you could be, you know, it could be not anything having to do with the Force at all, and it could be like a flight sim or a shooter. Like, there's tons of ways that I think this technology could be used, and so it's still super exciting. But it'll be interesting to see what comes next. And, you know, hopefully we find out soon, because Vader Immortal's done now, and I gotta think they didn't invest in all the, like, the development opportunities for the Quest, which was a very new platform, and they kind of, like, were the driving game at launch for it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, didn't have follow-up plans. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Right.
Another note about canon, the Black Bishop stopped time for a second to give you more exposition. That was weird.
Yeah.
Never seen that before.
Weird Force shit.
Yeah. Unclear if he, like, fully stopped time, if he stopped time in a bubble, if he, like, just froze everything but time continued. Like, it was unclear how that worked. But yeah, more weird Force powers.
Yeah. Interesting. It'll be interesting to see if that comes up again at any point in Star Wars, because what the fuck?
Yeah.
That was new.
Yeah.
Pretty
also,
cool.
another thing that could potentially tie into stuff that we do know is if this Force Purgatory is, like, a version of the World Between Worlds.
I don't know what that is.
Did you not watch Rebels? Oh my god, Miranda.
Oh, I recently restarted it.
Yeah, so you're going to make it to, like, episode 6 and then restart it again in 2 years?
Okay, I did not come out to be attacked. I think I made it to, like, episode 7 recently, so...
Amazing. Well, it's not really a spoiler, but basically there is a way to kind of, like, access kind of like a Force, like, it's not really purgatory, but, like, emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
And it is called the World Between Worlds. It's in season 4
Oh, yeah.
of Rebels, and basically it is a blank room with a lot of doors to go to different points in time and space.
Oh, that's cool.
And so, like, I could theoretically see the Black Bishop being trapped in some version of that.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that, like, there are other versions of, like, weird Force world. We've never talked about the Darth Vader comics, the second run by Charles Soule on this podcast, because Marvel is the worst, but they do kind of a version of a Force world and a Force portal. So like it is certainly canon that like there are different ways in which the world between worlds, or the world of the Force, whatever you want to call it, manifests.
Okay.
But that could be something here. It's definitely not going to be somewhere that Ben Solo is trapped, because that's dumb and he's dead. But
I could see it happening.
oh god, I know. Just give it 10 years until they want more money. It's going to be awful. Anyway. And then a note on, before we wrap up, I wanted to do a quick note on accessibility, because I did a little bit of a test of the accessibility features in this one. We talked about this in episode 1 and how I was really concerned about this because there weren't accessibility features. They do exist in episode 2, which is great. It's fantastic they exist. It asks you, like, from the jump, if you, like, when you first boot it up, if you want to, like, play on, like, the quote-unquote, like, default settings, or if you want to change the accessibility at all, which is also great to, like, normalize it and make you consciously choose which one you're going to do. The game itself doesn't really lend itself to the accessibility features. Like, what it does is, like, some motion smoothing, and you don't need to do any of the climbing thing, and, like, you can play seated. But playing seated is hard because you're flailing and looking around a lot, and particularly at the end when you have a lightsaber, it's very difficult to get the distance right. So I applaud them for having it. I didn't, and again, I said this before, I will say it again, I am an able-bodied man. These are not meant for me, so if there are people who are listeners who have played Vader Immortal and who are disabled gamers or disabled VR users who have thoughts on this, please do let us know, because we would love to hear from you and, you know, get the perspective of somebody who is using these, like, as they're intended for you. But from my perspective, it felt very clunky to me. So it's great that they exist. A+ for that. Now let's, like, continue to make them better and make sure that they provide a full game experience.
Right. And I guess, you know, I do think it is great that, you know, there are accessibility options, especially, this is Star Wars. It should be accessible. Everything should be accessible to everyone. But, like,
yeah,
you know, this is kind of a behemoth of culture. Like, they should have done this in the first episode. So it is good that they have it in this one. I do wonder, like, how the specific, you know, accessibility options were designed. Like, if they had folks with disabilities, like, there to help consult them on it. Because, like, I mean, I'm an able-bodied person as well. I don't know, like, how, like, I can just go in and, like, play the game in the default settings. And I do feel like, kind of like you mentioned, it's not going to be the same. I don't think things are going to kind of work in the same way if, like, you're playing seated. You know, I don't know, like, if there's a way to kind of modify the gameplay to make that experience easier. Because I think there are still some roadblocks if you're just like, okay, you know, we're tweaking a couple of things and here you go. You know, I think the more that they can really put effort behind that, would be great, obviously.
Yeah. And I feel like some of it is limited by, at least in terms of kind of how we envision it, we envision this game as, you know, you're a Jedi in training, you're walking around, you're jumping around with a lightsaber, etc. And I feel like some of it is we need to see more disabled characters in the canon and see, like, is there somebody who is confined to a sitting position and is, like, using the Force to, like, move themselves around in some capacity while using a lightsaber, or shooting, or, like, a flight simulator game would obviously be perfect from a seated position. So just stuff like that, where the canon as it exists has not given us the visual, for lack of a better term, for us to like imagine that, and that's, you know, fully an ableism bias and a bias on certainly my part for just like having the trouble of envisioning that, and like I feel like for the developers as well. So it's possible and they can do it. We need to get in a point with the controls and in the canon where that is normalized.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening to this subdued episode of the Book Wars Pod. Miranda, thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
As always.
Thanks for letting me come play and scream about things I don't know.
Always. Now we just need to get you back here to play episode 3.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll come out with the bonus app for that in like 2 years. It'll be fine. Next episode, we are finally going to be reading Myths and Fables by George Mann. Thank you for your patience, as we have been not for the past couple weeks, but it's going to happen. We're very excited, and we're going to read the whole book. In the meantime, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr at Book Wars Pod with your thoughts on Vader Immortal, on the controls, on the story, on the accessibility features, particularly the latter, but all of it. We really want to hear from you because this just hasn't gotten a ton of people talking about it because it is so expensive. Like a quest is so expensive, and so it's not super widespread. So hit us up. And bookwarspod@gmail.com if you want to email us. Please do rate, review, and subscribe to us and the Tashi Station Radio mega feed. It is the best way to help people discover the show. And donate to the Tashi Station Radio Patreon. And give us coffee at ko-fi.com/bookwarspod. We are, I think, just about 6 months from Star Wars Celebration Anaheim. If y'all want more buttons, if you want like better swag, like t-shirts or like stickers or anything like that, we love you, but we don't love you enough to spend like huge amounts of our own money. So if you give us coffee, that is the best way for that to happen and for us to help us help you get more Book Wars Pod swag that we know you all want. Our theme song is Whiz Bang by Poddington Bear. Our logo and artwork are by Joe Butera Design. For Miranda, I'm Chris. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Book Wars Pod, and we will talk to you next week. Do 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 do.
Ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da.